Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a little chat on the hypocrisy of classical music record collectors. Now, this is a topic that I've talked about on various occasions. Not that it ever makes any difference, of course, but I just feel that in light of the comments we've been getting recently, it's worth discussing as a kind of summation of all of the chats we've been having about the recording industry and everything that's wrong with it and all of this stuff. We are all very happy, I'm delighted, to criticize the classical music record industry, how badly they market things, how terribly they treat their product, what a disaster it is. It goes without saying that the classical music world is always in a state of crisis. It's in a state of crisis because it is, in some senses, an offshoot of the performing arts world, the performing arts military industrial complex, which is always in a state of crisis. Let me give you an example of how that crisis operates in the real world. I was once invited to a lecture, a chat with the Metropolitan Opera Guild. It was a press event where they spent their time regaling us with how fabulous everything is, of course, at the Metropolitan Opera, but how difficult it is to find a new audience for opera. That audience, of course, is the paying audience, the audience that is going to give money. Because in the performing arts, money is always a one-way operation. It flows in, but it never flows out. And afterwards, there was a Q&A. And I remember this vividly. I was with some of my friends. We were invited it wasn't a press event. I'm sorry. It was part of the New York chapter of the the American Musicological Society thing that I was doing in those days. And so we went there, and I said to them, well, I have an idea. If you really want to find a new audience, why don't you offer them a money-back guarantee? Invite them in, sell them their tickets, whatever price you sell them their tickets, right? But if they don't like it, tell them they can have their money back, or they can trade it in for another performance at a future date. Well, they all just chuckled and thought that was the funniest thing they ever heard in their lives, because you know what happens if you can't go to a concert. You may donate your ticket, but get your money back? God forbid, because they are entitled. They are entitled to your money. They are entitled to their subsidies. They are entitled to their tax write-offs. And no matter how much you give them, it will never be enough. It's never enough for the organization. It's never enough for the artist. It's never enough for anybody. And that's just the way the performing arts works. And the record industry has taken some of that, and some of that has also sort of soaked into the record buying public, but not in quite the same way. The way that it has soaked into the record buying public is we want more. We want more and more, and it's never enough. And not only do we want more, but we do not want to pay for it. I saw, after I did my little roundup on the changing state of the record industry, and what's going to happen is, Hyperion and BIS got swallowed up and everything's going digital. And all of you, or not all of you, but a good number of you, posted comments about how the classical music industry is dying and it's all terrible. And where you got that idea, I have no clue, because I said it's not dying and they're just finding new ways to finance the same unbelievable quantity of junk that they issue every year. That isn't death. That's just a different way of doing business. But of course, as classical music consumers, we naturally assume that it's bad, that everything is bad, and that it's death. So on the one hand, it's dying, it's horrible, we're lamenting, we're moaning, we're groaning, we're fetching, we're complaining, we're rending our garments and covering ourselves in sackcloth and ashes. And, it's the white scarf of irredeemable chutzpah and the black scarf of lingering stench and the scarlet scarf of shame. We do latch on to the negative, let's face it, because it's fun. But we have to take that fun for what it is, which is part of the entertainment aspect of the classical music industry. We can't be all that serious about it because there's tons and tons of great stuff getting issued all the time, and it shows no sign of stopping. The means of delivery may be changing. However, what is a constant, and which is totally hypocritical, is the fact that no one wants to pay for it. Because the classical music industry would be profitable if they could charge the genuine price in order to make themselves profitable. But would any of you pay that? Would you pay $20? I mean, you guys get upset over if something costs you a nickel. If it's 5 cents more. Now I understand. There are a lot of people on fixed incomes. There are a lot of people who don't have tons of money to spare. But that's a different question. It really is, because even for those of us who do not have unlimited quantities of money, and I'm one of them. I spend a lot on this stuff, but I don't have unlimited quantities of money either. I really, really don't. One of the reasons I got into being a critic was because I could get stuff for free. I mean, that was a big deal back in the day. Now I'm way past that. But at the beginning, that was really meaningful when I was just starting working and I had no, major income, and to be able to write and have people give me product. I mean, wow, that was a great thing. And free tickets to stuff and all of that. I can't deny it. And no critic who does is telling you the truth. Because unless we're independently wealthy, we have to find ways to listen to the things that we love. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with people being prudent with their funds. But what I do think is hypocritical, what I really think is hypocritical, is the idea that a record label or producer is not entitled to charge enough money so that they can make a living or make a reasonable profit on, the fruits of their labors. I mean, how could anybody complain about that? I get some of the silliest comments are from the anti-capitalists. Oh my God, the capitalist system run amok and capitalism is evil and all this stuff. I'm not here to argue the politics of that or the economics of it. All I can tell you is it sounds stupid when it's coming from people who are consumers, huge consumers, and who resent the fact that they're being asked to pay for the thing that they consume. I don't understand that. One of the things that Bernard Kutas, who was the founder of Harmonia Mundi, always said was that, they made a beautiful product and they were entitled to charge a premium price for that beautiful product. And they were. I mean, I had a conversation with him about it, and that was his feeling about it. His feeling was, of course, he also felt that French government should subsidize Harmonia Mundi forever, so he had other issues. But he believed that what he made was of such a quality that he should be able to charge a reasonable price for it. And they didn't want to do mid-price reissues. They didn't want to do cheapy stuff. I mean, they've since done that, of course. But at the time, he was really adamant in his belief that what they made deserved a certain subvention in the form of a price that they could charge for it. And when you think about it, one of the things I've always insisted, and I still believe this is true, is that classical recordings are some of the best value for dollar that you can get, even if you paid $20 for it. Or $25 for a single CD. Nowadays, you would just be going, oh my God, you'd be aghast with horror that somebody could dare charge $20, $25, $30 for a single classical CD. It's still a steal. Look at what you're getting. I mean, when you think about a symphony orchestra, 120 people playing this music for 80 minutes or 75 minutes, and that's all it's costing for you to experience that. I mean, in that sense, I'm entirely sympathetic to the artists. These people, superbly trained, splendid artists who are working their butts off, and I mean, they're entitled to make a living. They're entitled to make a good living. And they're entitled to ask you, the listener, to pay for what they do. But no, that's not how it happens. Classical music listeners are the most miserable, miserly, misanthropic, penny-pinching group of cheapskates that I have ever encountered. And however much I try and say otherwise, nobody seems to get that message. But that's the truth, friends. It is absolutely the truth. That is why I believe that criticism has value. It has value because these people are asking you for your money, and you deserve to get the best value for your money. And I believe I can be helpful in helping you get the best value for your money and steering you to this one rather than that one. I mean, that's part of it. That's all part of it. But goodness gracious, I get very, very upset when I keep seeing people talking about how horrible everything is on the one hand, but on the other hand, how they want more of it and they don't want to pay for it. I mean, it's the wonderful story about the old Jewish couple that leaves the restaurant and the old man says to his wife, how was the dinner? And she says, horrible. And he says, and how was yours? And he says, horrible. And she says, yes, in such small portions. I mean, come on, folks. It's nothing in life is free. People are entitled to charge a reasonable fee for what they do. And the classical music industry would be in very, very different shape if people were willing to pay something around near what I regard to be the true value of what they produce. Of course, it's their own fault. I mean, it's their own fault that people feel that way because they have discounted and ruined. Look at my video on how the classical music industry committed suicide. They turned what they produce into a mass market product that has less value than a can of bug spray. I mean, that's a fact. I mean, you can buy a can of Lysol disinfectant and it costs you more than your average classical music CD. And go figure that. That's the industry's fault. But they are what they are. But we have to be a little bit smarter and more enlightened about these things. And if it means that we listen to less because we can't afford to listen to more, we listen to less. It's not a crime. There's still tons and tons of stuff that costs virtually nothing. But I really am a little tired of hearing this business about how everything's terrible on the one hand, but we're not going to pay for it on the other. Got to make up your mind, folks. Can't have it both ways. I just thought I'd throw that out there for you to consider. So keep on listening, friends, and take care.